Hi, my name is Seth. I work as a producer under the name Velvet Ear. I make videos to help independent artists. And today I'm going to answer the question, which DAW is best and why that is a dumb question. I'm constantly being asked by songwriters, by other producers, by mixing engineers, which DAW I think is best. And the problem is there really isn't a good answer to that question, and I'm going to explain why. First of all, most DAWs are made for completely different people. Pro Tools was designed for professional audio engineers who are working full-time in music studios. GarageBand is made for at-home songwriters. Ableton Live is made to be used as a studio tool, but also as a DJ tool and a stage design tool. So there's really no point in trying to compare all of these because they do massively different things, and that's by design. These were created for specific people who are doing specific things. Like, I'm sure you could use Pro Tools for a live control setting, but like Ableton Live, like it's made to be compatible with lighting setups. Choosing the right DAW is going to depend highly on what you want to do. Second reason why the question is hard to answer is because they all have different workflows. And when I say workflows, I'm not even specifically talking about like the technical requirements for each DAW or the processing power required to run each one of them. I just mean from a purely creative standpoint, they all feel very different to use. Whether it's the key commands or the user interface or the menu navigation, each one of these DAWs is completely different in feel. An example of this is I actually used to be a Logic user. Everything I did was in Logic, but I just never got comfortable with it. Logic is not a bad DAW. It's a very nice DAW, actually. And from a technical standpoint, it had all of the functionality that I needed, but it just never felt right to use. I'm now working fully in Ableton Live, and from the second I started using it, it just felt easier. The way that my brain thought a DAW should work is just how it worked. All the key commands were very natural. All of the user interface was very easy to understand. It was just how I imagined a DAW should work for me. And that's the thing about people recommending DAWs is it's impossible for someone else to know what's going to feel good to you. You're going to have your own quirks in how you work in your digital audio workstation, and somewhere out there's probably a DAW that will lean into those quirks a lot more than the others. The third one, and this is mainly for music creators, not so much mixing engineers, but these DAWs sound different. Now, I'm not talking about like the actual DAW itself. If I take my Native Instruments guitar rig plugin and I play this patch in Pro Tools and bounce it out, and I play the same patch in Ableton and bounce it out, and then I play the same patch in GarageBand and bounce them out, I don't even know if you can do it in GarageBand, they're all going to sound exactly the same. But in each DAW, there are preset sounds, and regardless of what a lot of people have said, they're not bad for some of them. Before I was in Logic, I was actually in Reason, and still to this day, I still find myself genuinely missing some of the synth sounds that I got in Reason because I can't get them in Ableton. I genuinely miss some of the 80s synth pop sounds I was able to get with the Layers Rack extension. And in the same way, now that I'm no longer in Logic, I genuinely miss the Studio Horns plugin. Like to the point where I had a session recently for a client who needed some horn sounds, and I just couldn't find anything that fit in my contact library or in my Ableton setup. So I actually bounced down the MIDI out of Ableton, brought it into Logic, and used the Logic horn plugin, bounced the audio out from that, and then brought it back into Ableton. I don't recommend doing that, by the way. I'm just saying it's a really good horn plugin for being a stock plugin. And I know a lot of hip hop producers who feel the same way about some of the synth sounds in FL Studio. I am definitely not anti third-party plugin, but what I'm saying is these DAWs do actually have a certain sound texture to them, and if you're leaning more towards one genre, there might be a legitimate case to make that you'll get more usefulness out of the sounds that exist in that DAW. Just matter of fact, if you are a more singer-songwriter who focuses on this very acoustic feel, you're gonna get a lot more use out of the sounds in Logic than you would FL Studio. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on the matter. But to wrap this whole thing up, what would I advise you to do when you're trying to find a DAW? I would recommend you try the demo version of every DAW you possibly can. Each DAW company has some kind of trial run on their website, whether it's a 30-day trial or limited features. I recommend you try it for a bit, because the worst thing that could happen is you spend all this money on one DAW because it's the only one you tried, and then later on you find one that you liked better that you could have gotten, but you just never tried it. That has happened to me twice. So yeah, save your money and just use the demo versions. That's what they're there for. If you found this video helpful, please leave a like down below so that I can see which videos you guys find more useful. If there are any specific questions you have, please leave them down in the comments. I would love to do a video on them. I make one of these videos every Tuesday, so if you enjoy this kind of content, hit subscribe and hit the bell icon. I also just started a newsletter where I write articles for independent artists and songwriters. The articles are about the music business, artistic self-development, songwriting tips, productivity for creatives, and a lot more. Link is down in the subscription if you want to join. Have a great day. Now go make something cool.